Here's my thing lately.
Oh, hi.
Hi, Dale.
Hi, Anna. How are you doing?
I'm feeling uncertain. How about you?
Good. Well, this is the place to wallow in uncertainty because we're uncertain about a lot of things, but not why we're here.
No, we are here as the Uncertain Podcast Deadly Duo to review movies, TV shows,
Podcasts, books, what have you, media. If
maybe even menus and recipes.
Oh my God, I would love to review menus because some are awful, especially
Yes.
the QR codes. I mean, my God,
Oh,
my
I
camera
don't
roll is
like the
full of them.
QR codes. And
No.
I really don't like it when I have to go up and order
hmm
and then find the table. You can't sit down and hold your table
Well,
until.
that I understand because we live in a country where I've seen so many tables poached before anything has really happened. So I do feel like, hey, I actually committed to this meal. I purchased a meal. Now I need some place to sit and eat it, as opposed to the people that like, oh, my friends Ashley and Ashley are coming by here. I just thought I'd sit at
Uh-oh,
the table.
uh-oh, uh-oh. You're going to get some pushback from the Ashleys.
I welcome it. I welcome anybody responding to this podcast.
What do you, okay, now don't be overly sensitive, but what do you have against Ashleys?
Oh, I don't. I just picked it out of it's sort of like central casting, just trying to sum up a vague type of person. That's all.
I see.
A,
I
a
see.
Chad or a Derek.
Derek is kind of an unfortunate name for a boy.
Unfortunate.
I just keep seeing oil rigs, you know?
Right. Just them bobbing their heads up and down,
Don't even, that makes me
trying
think of
to
something else,
suck
but
down that dinosaur juice. Yeah, that's still, we're not getting any
no,
farther away from that image, are we?
no.
Anyway, but we really kind of strayed.
Welcome to the
Yeah, for
show.
videos. Yeah. Hey, thanks. Thank you, friends and neighbors, for joining us. See what I did there?
You did. That would suggest that there's some clue to what it is we're going to be discussing today.
Yes, clues and twists and moral ambiguity. Um,
So, what is it?
okay. Today we're talking about your friends and neighbors and
My friends and neighbors?
your friends and neighbors, but no, not your friends and neighbors, nor are we talking about the 1998 Neil LaBute film Friends and Neighbors starring Ben Stiller. I just wanted to clarify that. Um,
Okay.
Neil LaBute, he did In the Company of Strangers, correct?
And yeah, and he did a very controversial play about a fat girl. Yeah, it was not nice.
Well, yeah, I think I interviewed him for In the Company of Men. He was a lovely Mormon
Yeah,
filmmaker, but when you look at his stuff, it's very dark, kind of like
confrontational.
Todd Solondz-ish also, like
A little
where,
bit, yeah. No, he's a good writer.
yeah, he's a great writer. And anyway, we're not going to be talking about him. We're talking about Your Friends and Neighbors, the Apple Plus show, starring Jon Hamm, Amanda Peet, and Olivia Munn. The show itself, it just wrapped up as of this taping, just wrapped up its first season, and it is, if reports are to be believed, is filming a season two.
What could possibly happen? Anyway, I'll
I
let you go.
know, exactly, exactly. We won't get in. We just watched the end, and anyway, but the show itself, it's sort of a Breaking Bad-ish, Ozarkian look about ambiguous morality, quest for personal wealth, personal downfall. It centers on Andrew Cooper, played by Jon Hamm, who was a once successful hedge fund manager who finds his life unraveling after being abruptly fired through some corporate machinations there and going through a very public divorce in his small, affluent community. Struggling to maintain his lavish lifestyle and support his family, Coop, of course, turns to burglary as one would, targeting
Hmm.
his wealthy friends and neighbors in the upscale, I think it's called Westmont Village.
Yeah, it's kind of loosely based on some Westchester County burb. I
Oh,
think they mentioned Pound Ridge at one point, and that's an actual burb.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, so it's his journey into kind of delving deeper, step by step or stumble by stumble, into the criminal underworld, uncovering hidden secrets, moral complexities of those around him. So he's not only learning a lot about himself and his family unit, but also about who his friends or who he thought were his friends truly are. Uh, so yeah, so that's basically it. It's kind of a noirish. Um, as I said, it sort of reminds me tonally of kind of an Ozark or wannabe Breaking Bad with a little bit of Desperate Housewives thrown in there. For
More upscale like Desperate Housewives.
yeah,
Not, I mean, the Ozark family, they're well off, but they are not living in a well off
yeah,
place.
I guess I mean mainly like the protagonist journey, like that typical thing of like, well, if I just do this, oh, if I just do this, then you look back and see, oh my God, where am I? Right? Who am I?
Yeah.
Um, so that kind
Yeah, and how did I get here? Who that beautiful wife is Talking Heads.
of
I
right.
think they probably based
That
it on
might
the
be
Talking Heads song.
totally.
How did I
I
get
do
here?
find it, and there it is. I mean, of course, this the connection to Mad Men is almost purely based on Jon Hamm being there. But it's funny because when you have the skip intro
Hmm.
feature, so I mean, it has a lovely introductory song, but after a while, you don't want to hear it for 9 times. So as I skip
10.
over it, what is it? There 9 episodes? I thought there was
10.
episodes.
Oh, maybe was it only 9?
I think it's
Okay.
9.
Okay.
But then when you skip it, it kind of ends on this the very end of the song, which kind of creates this ambiguous unresolved melody that's very much like Mad Men. So for some reason, that kind of always connects that to me. But
Yeah, I read an article before the show aired, before it
oh,
debuted, with Jon Hamm, and he had resisted doing any role that had any sort of relation to his character in Mad Men. This is the first time back doing that sort of upper
yeah,
middle class guy. I mean, he's a different actor now.
yeah, he's a very different actor, and boy, he has charisma and magnetism. Like there's like so many scenes of him where he just seems so heavy, like
Hmm.
just like all that he's done, you could just is just on his face and his movements, and just very compelling
Yeah.
to watch.
I can imagine him in 10 years' time. There were some scenes where his eyebrows were so bushy and they were like overwhelming his face. And I'm like,
Right.
Wilford Brimley or one of
Exactly.
these old
Right.
actors. I thought, oh, he's going to be in an old Western and they'll paint out one of his teeth and
Right.
he'll
Going
be
to be an
perfect.
emperor penguin in some movie. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's over 50, so he qualifies as being of a certain age. Remember, even
Sure.
though we're uncertain age, we're trying to focus on things and movie stuff that people of a certain age can relate to because their characters are going through similar kinds of
And I
things.
and I also feel like even though John Hamm, is in his 50s, and so is Amanda Peet, who plays his ex-wife. Um, Even though, it's sort of on the young end of what we typically cover, I do feel like the point where they are in their lives is an interesting one. It is definitely you're like leaving one phase to the next, and you're definitely looking back at your decisions and wondering, if your life is suddenly not what you thought it would be. And I think that is also very significant of this part of our age, right? Where we're kind of
Right.
doing the assessing.
Right. And I feel like it's also, in a way, there's a little succession-y thing going on in insofar as what does money really get you?
Right. Well,
And I
and
think
that's
that's a question that,
yeah.
anyone asks themselves.
And I feel like just right up front, when we're learning about his character and he's kind of giving us a little tour, we kind of see that, right? Like just how like, oh, I worked really hard so I could do this for my family, but then that means now we're in this now we're living this lifestyle. So now, oh, now I have to work even harder to pay for this next thing. And yeah,
Right. Yeah. So it was good from that standpoint. And the acting is all good. I like the kids, the neighbors, the people playing the neighbors.
I have to say,
I have been with these people. My parents had a house in the Hamptons and these people would come over for cocktails.
yeah.
You
So
wouldn't
for me, it was like
trust them.
science fiction. It was just kind of like fantasy, like, oh, wow, this is interesting. But for you,
That whole thing at the end, that character where he gets to turn the tables on that woman
oh,
who
yes,
was cheating
yes, yes,
with for her kid.
yeah.
you just know that stuff goes on all the
Well,
time. And
we do
it's,
know, right? Isn't that a little bit like, and I'm totally spacing on their names, but speaking of Desperate Housewives, right? The people, the celebrities trying to get their kids into college through.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm getting them.
Right. I know who you mean. Not, we are the uncertain age and we are of a certain age. So
Right,
we forget
right.
things.
Exactly. Brought to you
And,
by Ginkgo biloba.
but you know who we mean. We weren't
Yeah.
supposed to be
You
talking
know,
about
we
Desperate
don't want
Housewives.
we don't want to condescend to you. You know what we're talking about, right? All
Right.
right. So Anna, what did you, should we start with what you liked or or do you
No,
want
we've
to
been
get
already
more into
talking about what
things?
I liked. I think you
Okay.
definitely watch this series.
It's a lot of fun. Like
I mean,
I
yeah.
feel like I keep saying, some of it satisfied that, oh, the person entering these sketchy, you know, having the sketchy journey, right? Again, the Ozark Breaking Bad thing. I'm That's very compelling. This doesn't go as dark as that, so it's also kind of a fun watch at times.
Yeah,
Um,
but it doesn't shy away from
yeah,
things that would be violent, though that whole violent scene in the street
yeah, the beating.
outside the restaurant,
Yeah,
that kind of got in my craw a little bit because the guy got to keep the money, right, from the
yeah.
stolen thing. And I'm like, quit while you're ahead.
No, I know. That's why I have a feeling. I don't want to be spoilery, but I have a feeling that was one of the few things that wasn't tied up in the last episode. So I have a feeling that might be more of a thing because that person he comes up against is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like that it was truthful, but as you said, not as consistently bloody as Ozark or Breaking Bad. So family friendly.
Yeah, if you have sort of a darker, edgier family, definitely. But it
Yeah.
doesn't. There wasn't the feeling again of like Ozark or Breaking Bad. We were like just, oh my God, no. Just it doesn't hit that hard. So
Right.
it is fun, but then it's not too much of a guilty pleasure.
No, I was just thinking, what is Jon Hamm eating? Because he is so
They not have.
barrel chested.
No, he had that. Well, I mean, I think that's part of it where I mean, this is definitely sort of a modern noir. And he kind of exuding that sort of barrel-chested Robert Mitchum-y kind of physicality, which I think suits him and suits this story. Because again, it's like,
Was
this
it
could have
my
been,
imagination or was he thinner in the last episode? Was he sort of trimming down the character? Because he just
I,
seemed overweight to me in the first few episodes, like he'd been drinking too much and
right.
eating too much, and that was part of the plot or thematically that he was
I
a
didn't
stuffed goose.
Yeah, I didn't notice that as much, but I do feel like I can imagine that being the case because there are moments where you're supposed to instantly see like, okay, we're seeing him in a downward spiral. So, and we do see him drink a lot, and he's probably not at the tennis court as much as he should be because his life is kind of shitty at this point, and he is not happy with himself or his
Right.
decisions. So. I wouldn't put it past, I mean, I don't know as far as continuity why he would. Do you mean like the very end?
The very last episode,
Well, maybe because at that point there's been a turn.
catharsis
Yeah,
of sorts. Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's
that would be interesting. But I could imagine that like there's a scene of him, in jail. For John, I was going to say he looks like shit, but he looks like John Hamm shit, right? Which is still pretty,
attractive shit.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, Getting into some of our
Indis
indices, yes, our puck, possibly upsetting criteria. One thing is you might not like all the things that he and his sister, who is bipolar and often off her meds, all the things that they expose the two teenage kids to.
Hmm,
It's a little, I think
interesting.
some parents might not want their kids to be so aware of their parents' sexual activities.
That is interesting because usually that's something I'm very sensitive to when I'm watching these types of things, and that didn't hit me that much. Mainly because
It
like
didn't hit me.
usually
Yeah.
typically in these types of shows, like the weak point will be like the children or like the teens or whatever. But I thought the two actors were really good and very
Yeah.
believable and authentic.
No, I'm just talking about what they were
Yeah.
exposed to.
No, no, no. I know what you're saying, but it's interesting because usually that is something I notice. And I was like, sure, like it's a dark, gritty story, but yeah.
Yeah.
But I thought
So,
that was actually kind of part of it, really, because it's not a pretty divorce.
no.
And it definitely falls prey, the energy of their divorce falls prey to the usual tropes of like, them openly, the two parents openly being shitty to each other, and that of course is going to spill over into the kids' worlds.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pucks, there's, the beating that you mentioned is pretty grisly. Um, I mean, there's the family dysfunction, divorce, all that stuff. But I guess to me, it seems like the mental health, like, because there was a couple episodes that did have that disclaimer at the end, like if you are in trouble, if you need to seek help, here's the number, that type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
So I think that would be the most puckish thing for me is just how some of the like the bipolar, the depression, some of the emotional unraveling is handled.
Yeah. Um, or if you've been fired for specious reasons,
Right.
that was enraging how he got
Oh yeah.
fired.
No, because there was
His boss, who is,
Kasparov off like chess move to get it done. I mean, it was crazy.
yeah, yeah. His boss is 70 plus, one of those old guys who just hanging on. And
Right.
um,
He has
yeah,
much of his identity invested in this that just for him, yeah, just to treat people so poorly.
yeah. And what else? The
Okay.
casting.
Casting age appropriateness, I feel that's pretty good. It's like Jon Hamm, 54, and I think his character was about that, mid 50s. Amanda Peet, 53, so there's not a huge age gap,
Yeah.
thankfully, in that. Olivia Munn, slightly younger, but that makes sense because she was sort of I guess, an aging trophy wife. Um, and I guess Olivia Munn was filming this during her breast cancer that she was having.
Oh,
So I thought she did a great job, and just knowing that she was undergoing that too is amazing.
yeah. Good for her. Well, maybe it was good to distracting for her.
Exactly, exactly.
So, yeah. So I didn't think anything was wrong. The kids seemed
Yeah.
appropriately aged. The neighbors all seemed, pretty appropriate. I think they did seem older than a lot of their friends, the neighbors, friends and neighbors.
Are you saying that the friends and neighbors seemed younger or seemed
A
older?
little bit, modestly so. Like Kat, the lawyer, whose kid was the same age as
Yeah.
their kid,
Yeah.
was younger.
No, that tracks. I think if we get to craw,
Yeah.
things that stick in our craw, um, there's a few things like I think some of it's something that's typical of like a series, maybe some pacing issues, right? Some episodes, it's like, do we really need to dig deep into this secondary character or not? A little pacing, um, little tonal inconsistency,
It,
like from episode to episode. Sometimes, like the last episode seemed tonally different than previous episodes. Um, so some
one
of that
thing
stuff
that
was in my
one
crowd.
thing that I was really aware of was they should have done a scan, AI assist or not, of how many times they had him waking up from
Right.
something.
Yeah.
So many times,
So many times.
find him with his eyes closed, kind of coming awake by the pool, in the bed, on the hospital room. Like that was, yeah,
Yeah. And in the end of the episode, I think there's a series of waking up right after each other. But two really minor things, or not so minor, but the fact there's this whole thing about um like the burglary aspect, right? But then there's this whole thing like how there's no alarms or very few. There's no ring cameras really. They're kind of few, but this affluent area is completely bereft of any of your basic security devices.
right.
I think it's interesting.
That's crawl worthy.
That is crawl-worthy.
Yeah. But after things started to happen, I got the impression that people were starting to lock things up.
I would think. I would think, but that was a little bit of like a really? Okay.
Yeah. They did address it. They tried to dismiss anybody's concern about that. I think, there were lines about it, about how everybody just knows everybody else in Westmont or wherever, and so we don't lock our doors.
Right, but it's hardly Mayberry. But yeah. And it's some of the secondary characters, like I thought his friend and money
Barney.
manager, yeah, was a little underwritten. I don't know. Seemed to be more present there just for him to react to. And there's also the lead detective on the case seemed a little like, I don't know. I'm eating a burger and I'm doing that. She just seemed to kind of be a bit of a stereotype, but
She did. She did. And the two women, her and Kat, who have any sort of job in this thing, because most of them are just wives,
right.
which is not to say anything about being just
Yeah.
a wife, that's fine. But be a nice person if you're just,
Right.
but the two female characters who were doing anything, lawyer and the cop, they had really a lot of negative
Yeah,
characteristics.
exactly. No, totally. Like, how dare they be, professionals?
Yeah. So, writers of this show, as you proceed, showrunner, could you have some nice, powerful women in it? And if you want any suggestions, I'm sure Dale and I could, because we did like the show,
Yeah,
we
we can
could
definitely field those.
just don't have too many people waking up in the next season. Um, and yeah, well,
I,
that's it, right?
that's it, I think. Yeah, well, I'd say definitely it's worth your time, especially now that
You
there is going to be a season two, so you don't have to have that horrible feeling where, oh, I just devoted all this time to this, and now it just was abruptly yanked from streaming.
Your friends and neighbors, a lot of beautiful people in very wealthy surroundings with beautiful clothes and handbags and jewelry and watches. Yeah, it's a vicarious lifestyle.
Exactly.
So, this has been the Uncertain Age podcast.
I'm Dale Basie.
And I'm Anna Nicholas. And thank you for listening, watching. And please let us know if there's anything you'd like us to listen to or watch for you so you don't have to.
Yeah, just reach out to us at info@uncertainage.co.
And we will catch you on the downside.